Top story this week, freedom! We won't let you down, freedom! Though actually we might let you down, freedom! In fact, we are definitely going to let you down, let you down! Middle East uprising update now!
What's that? I don't know that song.
George Michael?
Yes, you do.
Oh,
yes,
right.
you do, Andy. It's a George Michael classic.
Oh, it's my school song, actually.
When you say you don't know a song like that, you lose musical credibility, Andy. Not everything is Bon Jovi and Boney M.
Well, I'm flattered by the suggestion that I had musical credibility before that.
If it helps, it was Robbie Williams' debut solo single as well, Andy.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Now, Chris has lost musical credibility by going the other side of knowledge then. Anyway, Andy, freedom! That was the cry of William Wallace Braveheart shortly before the British tore him limb from limb. And if you think about it, in many ways, he got his freedom, Andy, as we generously liberated his extremities from the oppressive ties of his torso. And did he say thank you? Did he He just died, the ungrateful Scot. Well, that cry of freedom has been sounding out across the Middle East over the last month with similarly brutal results. It's like the dictators of the world once went to a hypnotist show and the hypnotist told them that if they ever heard the word freedom, they should cluck like a chicken and open fire on their own people. Well, we and the rest of the world have been trying so hard to ignore what is happening in Syria, Yemen and Libya as much as we can. It's like that amnesty technique that adults sometimes use with children. I'm going to turn my back, and when I turn back around, I want to see a stable democratic government here. Except this time, whenever we turn around, it's just Gaddafi flipping the bird and pointing at his own bare arse. I guess the big takeaway is, it does seem that we are currently in a lot more wars than we're giving ourselves credit for. We're running a pretty impressive number of explosive physical discussions with countries in and around the Middle East. The problem is that we're being extremely careful not to call anything that we're doing a war. They're either humanitarian interventions or kinetic military actions or covert operations, but there are so many of them happening now that we're going to need to invent more euphemisms for war, and we're going to have to do it fast. So, Yemen news now. And Andy, in Yemen, we're involved in a spot of what I believe the potential UN resolution describes as violent nudging. Just throwing a few ballistic elbows to knock them back onto the right track.
That's a good way of putting it, John. And it's also, I guess, that we've been previously nudging them by giving them lots and lots of weapons in exchange for lots and lots of Yemeni money. So.
Yeah, that's right. We're no stranger to the nudge.
Yeah. So, I mean, it has led to... There's been... I can't say I've fully followed the Yemen crisis. I mean, there's been a lot of sport on this year, John, so...
Right.
I mean, things have to take priorities, but it does seem...
I don't think the Yemenis would blame you for that, Andy.
It does seem that there have now been more resignations than at the World Pessimism Championships. Does that quite work? I think that nearly works. I think that's just close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could probably have worded it better with a bit more time, but I'm just going to have to do.
I think what happened with that joke, Andy, is it's like in the semi-finals. You're an Olympic sprinter who has just placed, so just getting through to the final, but in the knowledge that you are going to arrive last. The Obama administration has been increasing airstrikes on suspected militants in Yemen in an attempt to keep them from gaining power while the government teeters. And a US official confirmed that a strike last Friday killed Abu Ali al-Harith, a mid-level al-Qaeda operative, which followed last month's attempted strike against Anwar al-Awlaki, the leader of al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. So, just to be clear, are we now fully admitting that we are trying to assassinate these people? Or are there still those strange excuses afterwards? It was an accident. We were carrying a bomb on a plane and we hit some turbulence and it must have just dropped on his house by mistake. We're very sorry and very embarrassed. or maybe it's... we saw through a drone camera that there was a wasp on his nose and we didn't want him to get stung. We know he's allergic to wasps, so we launched 3 missiles at his house to scare the wasp off.
Well, maybe that they've been, hacking his emails. And they'd found out that he wanted to have a new patio put in, merely helping him out by flattening his garden and house.
That is entirely possible.
Yeah, we can't rule that out.
we've been doing this secretly, although I don't know how secret anything can be when there's a huge explosion at the end of it and a crater in the ground where a building used to be. But we've also been doing it with the covert support of President Ali Abdullah Saleh, the brutal, repressive leader of Yemen. And he's actually been a bit quiet this week, President Saleh, because last Friday he came down with a very nasty case of being blown up by a bomb. And there's a lot of that flying around the region's leaders at the moment. It seems to be very contagious. It was initially reported as a rocket attack by rebels, but was later revealed to be a bombing at a mosque inside his palace. And apparently he's been in intensive care in hospital in Saudi Arabia since then and has had shrapnel removed from his body, as well as suffering 40% burns. But President Saleh has already said, Andy, that he's coming back. And I definitely wasn't expecting that, Andy. I was expecting him to pull a Musharraf there, realise he's got no more chips and walk away from the table. But instead, he's gone outside, he's stolen a bunch of car keys and is now pushing them towards the dealer and doubling down. He's in it to win it, Andy. 40% burns to the body. He could be Yemen's first bionic president, emerging from the smoke with a digital eye scanning for dissidents. His supporters have been playing down his injuries, saying he's overcome the health difficulties after successful surgery to remove shrapnel. Sources expected him to return soon after completing his recovery and treating some light surface burns. Light surface burns? Presumably, those are the ones on the surface of the 40% massive burns all over his body.
I don't know, John, if you had a steak with 40% burns, it would still be pretty rare, wouldn't it? I mean, maybe that's the angle they're going with there.
His supporters fired shots into the air on Thursday to celebrate reports that he would soon return to Yemen, and this might actually be the best way for President Saleh to gauge who's a supporter of his and who's a rebel, by just seeing which angle the bullets are flying. Are they going up in the air, or are they flying towards his head? That could be the key.
That's how I certainly do it at gigs.